All right, so my name is Molly Kulp, and I'm in the school district of Lancaster. I teach third grade, and I teach where all content areas are covered. Jose is identified with an intellectual disability, and he performs at a kindergarten level in both reading, math, writing, and even emotional level as well. And Nancy heavily struggles to read and computate math problems. So, some of the expectations I have in my classroom are that all students will use the four operations in mathematics to solve word problems. For ELA, when I give students a third grade level text, they will be able to comprehend it. So, challenges with this are students can't determine which operation to complete, and they also struggle to decode words, which makes it very difficult for them to comprehend the passage given. So, assessments show what students are understanding of newly learned skills, concepts, and ideas. The first recommendation I have would be for Think, Pair, Share. I learned this in college. This really allows students to discuss with each other. It's important that students learn collaborative skills and are able to feed off each other's ideas and thoughts. When it comes to students self reflecting, this was discussed in the Student Self Assessment by Educational Horizons, and it finds that when students are given a chance to really reflect on their learning and understanding, they may be able to gain more grit when facing challenging tasks, and they take accountability for their own learning. So, in my most recent math curriculum of Bridges, it is really recommended that students be given math journals, and this allows students in a private and really personal way to show their own thinking, their own understanding, questions, and things that help them see and remember what they're doing. And it's also important for the teacher to be able to really kind of look inside their mind and see exactly what's going on. So, moving into cognitive strategies, they're taught to help students how to learn how to do a task. A common mnemonic, is PEMDAS. So this helps students solve the four operations in the right order, and this is really great for third grade and above. And the metacognition comes in when students have to think about their thinking, how they understood it, or maybe what's holding them up in their brain. So, when teaching cognitive strategies, the teacher must provide appropriate supports to students. And this was brought up and discussed in chapter 14 of our Michalewski text. And it really just shows that the teacher can't just glaze over the information, glaze over the strategy, that they have to properly show students how it is to be executed. So, moving into explicit instruction, this is the bread and butter of teaching. So, the teacher must explain, model, support, give independent practice, and then feedback to students. And this was recommended by Rutzel and others from the Elementary School Journal. It's really important that we show students and say to students exactly what we're thinking and how it should be done when they're given the opportunity to model this for themselves. So, depending on the resources available in your classroom and district, your explicit instruction could be presented in more visually appealing ways. But no matter what is available to you, explicit instruction should be passionate, and the content should really stay relevant to students. So when we go into engagement, it's imperative. So hold them up cards or response cards are recommended in the Total Participation Techniques book written by Dr. William Himeley and Dr. Priscilla Himeley. It was also recommended in an article I read by Heward and others in the Teaching Exceptional Children. So these could be made so all students can answer questions rather than the raise your hand and call one student at a time, and can be tailored to be as specific or general as needed by the teacher. So, games and workplaces are also recommended in the Bridges curriculum, and this is for students so that they can be engaged in the skill while earning points or competing with others, and they don't even really realize that they're practicing, but they're highly engaged and motivated, and it accomplishes just the same as a worksheet, only students want to be successful more so because it's fun. So these can also be done on an online platform such as Kahoot, Lookit, Gimkit, 99 Math, and the goal of all these platforms is to provide additional practice aimed at increasing accuracy and exposure to students. So if your district doesn't have devices that support this, it will be difficult for you to use this particular method. So, when we look at barriers and limitations with explicit instruction, it's difficult when the curriculum guides don't promote the best practices and those steps of explicit instruction. New teachers may not know which to follow or how to adjust to the book's way to best practice, and students may not be fully honest with the self recommendations when they want to kind of lie to themselves or put up a certain front, even though it's only for the teacher's eyes. Difficulties with the response cards is that they do take time to make from the teacher and it may come at the teacher's expense. This could always be supplemented with whiteboards, but it may not be as fast or specific for students. So, suggestions I have are so that future studies be done with more diverse populations, such as students with disabilities, at risk, or refugees. Knowing what practices and support their learning in inclusive environments may help teachers. And for professional development, it should include an option on adjusting curriculums to promote the explicit instruction best practices, especially for new teachers. And it could even be run by an experienced teacher that can provide examples of how they adjusted their curriculum to show best practices in the current curriculum. Thank you for listening.